morning, everyone, or as one of our WikiTreeers says, good time zone, because I know it's midday here for me in Chicago. And I have with me John Tyner from Ireland and Dagmar, who is from Denmark. And we are going to talk with you about what was discovered in the December RAWK Challenge. So it's great to see a lot of people in the chat. Those of you who are involved and some of our regular LiveCast viewers, and also welcome to those of you who are watching this after the fact. My name is Betsy Coe, and I've been heading up the RAWK Challenge since we started it last March. December was the 5th time that we had the challenge. So without further ado, let's have a look. So we had 44 rockers in December, and they were a small but very, very mighty team. And you'll see the full list here. And who got rocked? So every month, every time we have this event, we call for nominations in the month leading up to the rocking month. And then those names all go in a hat, and we pick five people who get nominated to have the team work on their branches and increase their CC7. For those of you who might not know, if you're just stumbling onto this video, CC7 is what WikiTree uses to refer to close connections within 7 degrees. So you yourself are 0, and then your parents would be 1, and so on. And this includes relationships through marriage. So as you're going to see, this CC7s can get quite high. So we had Bonnie McFeeters, Catherine Nass-Penner, Ian Bicall, Karen Verworn, and Bob Vitfeltz, who got the RAWK treatment. So what did we accomplish? Here are our numbers. So you can see first we have their starting CC7s, and then where they ended up as of, well, very early on the morning of January 1. And then the number of connections we added. And then I thought it would also be fun to see the percentage growth. We had some trees were a little harder, some branches were harder to make progress on, but everybody, as I've been sifting through all that was done, I hope that all 5 of our Rockies are going to feel really, really happy with what the team found for them. So, and total increase for all 5 combined, 2,251. This also included badges being earned for 4 of the Rockies. We got Caroline over the 1,000 mark, and Catherine, Bonnie, and Bob got over 2,000 thanks to the team. So we were really, really happy to help you get those. So we're going to start with Catherine Nass-Penner. Who I hope is watching. She couldn't join us today, but we actually have some really good finds, and I hope you'll enjoy seeing this later. So she's been a WikiTreeer since 2013, 10 years, and member of the Canada, Germany, and Notables Project, a cemeterist, connector. And when we have a thon, you'll find Catherine on the Canadian Connectors. So here's what I'm going to be showing for each of them. On the left is their starting graphic. This is the 6 Degrees app that Greg Clark made for us. And then on the right, you see how we filled things in. And here, what we're going to be looking at today in specific are some of her paternal ancestors who were German Mennonites let me go to the next slide. They are German-speaking Mennonites who became colonists in southern Russia. At the time, it was southern Russia. Now it would be considered southeast Ukraine. And these Mennonites were brought to southern Russia by Catherine the Great, Catherine II, after she defeated the Tatars and the Cossacks who were living there beforehand. So Chet Snow did a great deal on these lines, these branches. Now, Chet, unfortunately, was not able to be with us today, but he and I had a conversation on Zoom yesterday, which we recorded, and we'll have a watch at that. I certainly needed to learn the geography a little bit. So I have two map views to share with you. So I couldn't show everything, but here to orient you, there's Italy, there's the boot, okay, and here's the Black Sea. And the area that we're talking about is right here. And this I learned is called this is not just more of the Black Sea. This is the Sea of Azov. And so on the next slide, we'll see a little more of a zoom in. So Catherine's ancestors lived in this area, Zaporizhia. So, and Catherine the Great, just to put it in context of time, she reigned from 1762 until the time of her death in 1796. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the video to the stage. It's about 10 minutes long, but I think you're going to find it fascinating.
So with Catherine's family, this uncle whose name was Theodore Norbert Harder, you see that he didn't die all that long ago. And as you can see there, he was born actually during World War I in a place in the Russian Empire. And this particular place in the Russian Empire is now part of Ukraine. And today it's still a battle zone because it's the southeastern part of Ukraine, very, very near to the Sea of Azov and down to the Black Sea. In fact, people who want to look up this group of settlers, they often call them Black Sea Germans. And they came to Russia, that southeastern part of Russia, due to the Tsarina Catherine the Great, who was, of course, a German by ethnicity. And she had conquered that region in the 18th century, which was originally Cossack and Tatar territory, and wanted to put settlers in there that would be loyal to her. So she went to Prussia, and particularly East Prussia, but also, interestingly enough, she had some West Prussian Baltic people who were Dutch as much as German, but they were all Mennonites. And she said, if you will come to Russia, you'll get free land, you'll get autonomous structures that you can keep your religion and keep your language and live sort of in autarky here in this fertile area that has been depopulated. You plunk down a bunch of pacifist farmers in what was a war zone. Tsarinas don't think like ordinary people, and Catherine the Great was very extraordinary. So the Harder family, among others, left what was East Prussia, and around 1800. Some went as early as Catherine died, I think, in 1796. So the first settlements were in the 1780s, and then it went on. And the one where the Harders went was called Molochna in the Tavrida area of the Russian Empire, and that there's a river there and a fertile valley, and they settled in there. And of course, there might even be a few still left today, but unfortunately, with the 20th century and all of the wars between Germany and Russia and the very bad feeling that came particularly in World War II, almost all of them were themselves either ethnically cleansed or fled or emigrated. And this family emigrated to Canada well before World War II. Most of them got out between 1890 and 1930, somewhere in era. Of course, you also had the Communist Revolution in there, and these are religious people, and we know what the communists think of religious people, and also they are people who believe in the value of private property. And another big no-no under Stalin was anyone who believed in private property. So many of these Mennonites were called kulaks, and in the 1920s and 30s, Stalin put a pogrom against all the kulaks. He killed I think 2 or 3 million Russians. A lot of the German farmers remain, and a few of this family undoubtedly were caught up in that Holocaust. But most of them fled and went to Canada, where there were other Mennonite communities. So Mr. Harder, and what I wanted to do with Catherine was his family was not explored on WikiTree.
Right.
And of course, that's what we're doing in RAWKing. We're looking for families that aren't filled in, are not explored, to add to essentially, you might say, the density of the tree.
Exactly.
And I feel proud that we were able to take her from about 1,800 connections up to over 2,000.
And you created the siblings and the parents.
I think I took it back 3 generations. I wanted to go back to the 7 level, which is, of course, what we do in RAWKing. And
Right.
there are probably still some before that, because I see the 7th level is already in Russia. And I believe the records do exist for the Germans who emigrated themselves.
Yes.
I see the furthest back I have was born in 1811. This family went to Russia around 1800. So his parents, no doubt, were the ones who went. And I believe he was a junior, so it would have been a Mr. Johann Harder Sr. You know, it's a little bit of a tricky thing to say junior and senior, but to try to, distinguish them, one has to do something. I know they didn't use that term. That we run into that in genealogy, of course, all the time. Junior, senior is a more modern adaptation to trying to distinguish people. They would have called them Pappy and Sonny. I mean, in German, probably. We genealogists tear our hair out when we come across that.
At least Catherine knows where to go.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I did find some form of sources for all of the profiles that I put in. Of course, like many people on WikiTree, I'm adept at Family Search, which is a free search engine, basically. It's not as complete as Ancestry.com, but because it's organized around primary documents, it's very useful. Whereas Ancestry is organized around family trees. The other online research website that I found, which I would recommend to anybody who is interested in the Black Sea Germans or in Mennonites in general, even they called them Hutterites, were another 18th century German sect, Protestants, called Grandma Online. It is a paid site, but it's much, much cheaper than Ancestry or MyHeritage. And you can sign up as sort of a temporary person for 2 months and do all your research in 2 months. And then the way it works, which is good for guests, you see down there it says guest access. But the thing with guest access is you must know the grandma number of the person you're looking for. So wherever I could, I put in the grandma number somewhere in the profile or in the sources so that somebody could go to that number, because a guest can go to that number and see the information about that person.
For example, just to show people, there is the ID number.
If you click on that, even as a guest, you can find that person. Usually it gives their birth and date and death date and marriage, and also it gives the names of their parents. It's pretty good, but if you don't, you have to go ahead and sign up for grandma, which was, RAWKing is not my genealogy. So I didn't bother to do that, but I did find that, and I put it in there wherever I could, because this is a good database for people to look for.
Maybe we could talk about this a little bit more, about the extensive record keeping that the Mennonites did overall. Which,
yes, very much like the Quakers. It's not that they were so much interested in genealogy, but I believe what they were mainly interested in was the pedigree of fiancés. They wanted to marry within their religion and in their group. At the same time, they wanted to avoid co-sanguinity. In other words, too close blood ties.
Yes.
So you had to know who your fiance was. And remember, these are fairly small villages, most of them 1,000 people or less. So there may be not too many choices in your village. Almost like the Eastern European, Ukrainian, Russian Jewish populations, they had, I believe, people who were sort of like midwives for marriages, people who went out and would find the proper person, and they would find out who their parents were and who their grandparents is good for you. So when they left, they couldn't take the primary documents with them because that was in the state-run stuff, but they took very, very well-written transcripts of everything. And so those transcripts have been put online through Grandma Online. That's the purpose of Grandma Online, to give that background. And it's very complete, it may not be primary, it's secondary because they're transcripts, but at the same time, I think you could call it a trusted source.
So it's
grandmaonline.org. It's run by people who are of that faith, even today, of course. They not only talk about the ones in Russia, although that's their focus, they do talk about their descendants who came to Canada or to America. There are significant Mennonite communities in both Canada and the United States. Like the Harder family, that's where they went, because they were in correspondence with people in Canada and the United States, probably all in German, by the way. I would imagine up till the mid-20th centuries, they all spoke German. So it's very fascinating. Now, the other side of Catherine's family tree, which she had asked about, was her father, Mr. Nass, Nass. And I didn't have much time. It was toward the end of the month, and December was a month of a lot of holidays. But I did go back, and if you look, I went, and I think it was her great-grandfather. I filled in the family tree there. And it's interesting because they were Mennonites, but Lutherans and Mennonites, but they stayed in Prussia. They didn't go, that particular branch, to Russia. You know, my purpose was to try to fill in for Catherine as much of that. And she was asking about that because she felt that not too many people had looked at this, because most of that part of Prussia, of course, is now Poland, or it's the Kaliningrad little enclave of Russia, which is between Poland and Lithuania, and that had been East Prussia back in up to World War II, actually. So not that long ago. And then it was ethnically cleansed, so probably there's none of the ancestors of her family would still be there. And most of those people were, if they weren't killed in the war, they were pushed westward into Germany, today's Germany. It's a very difficult region, genealogy, because so many places were displaced and peoples were displaced and records were destroyed, frankly. Sort of like our South in the Civil War. You know, it's very hard to find colonial documents from Virginia, for example, unless you're pretty famous. It's the same reason. Many courthouses were burned or artillery fired and burned. And so everything went up with them. And this was even into the 20th century in this part of Europe. And like I say, the Harder family who went to Zaporizhia in Ukraine, that's still a war zone. It's in the Donetsk region of eastern Ukraine. Just to do kind of come back and maybe follow up, I really find that the rocking is very beneficial to the people who do it. And I hope to the people for whom it's done, that it opens up more research. Frankly, it's fun. It's fun to do. Even if it's 10 people, I feel it's 10 more people.
Every bit helps. Thank you so much, Chet. Thanks for your time and the wisdom you shared with us. And
thank you, Betsy, for doing this, and have a great afternoon.
So yeah, that was really fun and a very educational conversation that Chet and I had yesterday. So Chet, I'm assuming you'll watch this at some point. Thanks again for making that video with me yesterday. Let's see, let me get back to the right screen. As we were watching that, I noticed Ian in the chat, so that's great. Ian, his name is familiar to many. He's been on WikiTree since 2018, serves as coordinator of WikiTree's apps project, and is a very key player, has been a key player in Hacktoberfest for both years. And he is also the primary contributor and coordinator for the WikiTree browser extension. And when it's thon time, you'll find him with the toddling tortoises. So I want to highlight this feature, this new feature of the WikiTree browser extension, which is especially relevant for rocking, and that's the CC7 changes. So if you go, by the way, if you don't already have the WikiTree browser extension, run and get it, because it's just, it changes how you experience WikiTree, and the things you can do and the ease that it brings is just marvelous. So you'll find this under navigation, and then the submenu for that, what you'll find under the find menu, and just click this on CC7 changes. And then when you're back on WikiTree, then you'll see it. And the first time you run it, it will take a baseline. It has to do that at some point. And then subsequent times, it will tell you what profiles have been added within the range of your CC7. So, I think most of us have experienced a little bump in our CC7 from time to time if somebody else is working on branches distantly connected to us, and wondered, oh, where are those bumps coming from? And now we finally have a way to see that. So thank you, Ian, for this and for everything. As you can see on the right-hand side, it's a lot of Ian contributing, creating and contributing. So we are so grateful. Here's what we did for Ian. So we took him up, not too high. There people found your branches a little. There were some solid brick walls in there, but we did fill in some of the gaps, and we have, as you can see, we have John Tyner in the studio today, and he is, first of all, John is a 5-time rocker. He's been involved with all 5 of these challenges. Thank you, John. And John worked on Ian's branches very diligently, and he's going to talk a little bit more about what he found. John, are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I started with looking at Ian's grandmother, I think, Myra, and she was listed in the 1939 register with her parents, Thomas and Elizabeth. And what was interesting was that at the start, Myra was listed with a different father who was also Thomas Roberts, but he had died in 1930, so he couldn't be Myra's father. So what I did was in the 1939 register, Myra's father had his birth date listed. So that was 1874. So I looked for a Thomas Roberts born in 1874 on the GRO, the General Register Office, and I ordered a digital image of his birth certificate, and that matched the birth on the 1939 register. And so that means I was able to build up that line a bit further back. And I put some research notes on Thomas's profile and explaining not to be confused with the other Thomas Roberts who died in 1930. And also the marriage of Thomas Roberts to Elizabeth Williams in 1904. I ordered that marriage certificate, and turns out that Thomas Roberts who married in 1904 married someone else. So that wasn't the right marriage. So I have since ordered another marriage certificate, and that hasn't arrived yet. So when that arrives, I'll communicate with Ian and work on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always a problem. I mean, Elizabeth, Williams, Roberts, they're common names. So yeah. You must be on a first name basis with the people at the clerks at the records office, John.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Was there anything else to share? I can't remember.
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. All right. Great. So let me come back here. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
So Caroline, also, hi Caroline, I see you're in the chat, and I'm glad you were able to, I know it's in the middle of the day for you, so glad you could sneak away. Caroline has been on WikiTree since 2019 and is a member of the Italy, German, Jewish Roots, Poland, England, Appalachia, and United States projects. Whew. She's also involved in several one name and one place studies, and she's a cemeterist. Come Thon time, you'll find her on Team Italy. And Caroline, like John, Caroline has also been on the RAWK team all 5 times. And you'll see she was including this time. So while she was being RAWKed, she was also RAWKing others. So here's what we were able to do for Caroline. Let's see, we are going to be concentrating today talking about her, let's see, where is he? Her maternal grandfather, Bernardino Lupini. So Caroline has this grandfather is from, and I hope I'm saying this correctly, but I may not be, Pasalupo in the Umbria region of Italy. That's where her grandfather was born and lived his childhood years. So you can see basically right at the tip of the arrow point. That's where Pasalupo is. And Caroline has well, first of all, here's her grandfather and his profile. And Caroline has done a one-place study. She is the lone member of this one-place study. So if you have any interest in helping her with this, I'm sure she would be delighted. But it's a really nice page. I was enjoying reading through it. And so one of our RAWKers, Anonymous B, who's a three-peat RAWKer, she created a free space page for Caroline. And this is actually what I had. I'm going to switch from my presentation. First of all, here is Caroline's one place study page. And what I really like, I'm going to slowly come down. Locations to look into. She has a list of surnames that she's interested in related to this place. Quite a lengthy historical section. What I'm looking for, I'm going to go back to the contents, is the surnames. So we have a list of surnames that are linked here, and then a list of about 472 people who are either born, lived, and or died in Pasalupo. So what we're going to see now is the free space page that Anonymous B did, which is marriages from this. And so she concentrated on, first gives the link to Family Search, notes there are a couple of years where there's missing records, unfortunately, but she focused on surname, 6 of the surnames that Caroline had pinpointed in her one place study. So most of these, where there's a WikiTree profile, it is a little bit farther out than 7 degrees. I think I saw I saw a 9 degree, I saw a 12 degree, some of which Anonymous created, and some were already created by Caroline. But still, even though they're outside of the CC7 radius, I still think that this is just enormously helpful with the link and the image number, a translation, dates and names of parents. So I hope that this is a help as you continue with your one place study, Caroline. I did say Appalachia, biscuits. Just you wait, Sandy. I have something special for you. Okay, so I'm going back to my presentation, and we move on to Bonnie. Bonnie McFeeters, who was nominated by John. And Bonnie's been a WikiTree since 2017, a member of the Appalachia and Slavic Roots projects, a data doctor, and she has a one-name study for McFeeters and a one-place study for Indiana, Pennsylvania. And I just wanted to be very clear that it wasn't too late in the evening when I did this slide. There's really a place in Pennsylvania called Indiana, and that's where Bonnie is from. You'll find her with the Appalachia Roots team when it's thon time. So for Bonnie's rocking, there were people working on her McFeeter's surname connections, and also some working on her connections with her one place study. And she had a really phenomenal jump, 1,300 to just over 2,000. There were a lot of interesting finds on her page. I picked out one whose name is Amidio Calabrese, and he is a 6-degree connection, and I worked it out, and I had to make sure I had this right since I'm saying it in public. His first cousin, Ornella, is Bonnie's aunt through marriage. And so Caroline actually found this, that Amidio was appointed captain. He had gone to the Merchant Marine Academy in Kings Point, New York, and he served with distinction in World War II, and then was in 1960, that's the date of this newspaper coverage, he was appointed captain of a ship sailing trade routes along the west coast of South America. So Sandy let me know that that Bonnie is trying to compile a comprehensive list of all her ancestors who served in the military, and so he would certainly fit along there. And the rocking team found a good number of others. So she's going to turn that into a digital book for her family. So Sandy, here it is. Biscuits. I was looking for a picture of a pajama party or a slumber party, but I couldn't find a good one. But I thought that this is pretty good. At one point in December, Sandy, Aaron, Nancy, and John pulled an all-nighter. Well, almost. They were up until 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's what got Bonnie over 2,000 connections. So if that's not WikiTree love, I don't know what is. Thank you. Thank you for that big push for Bonnie. And Bonnie couldn't be here today, but she did want me to make a special point to say thanks to all of you who work so tirelessly. She said it's greatly appreciated, and the team who worked on this were so selfless, as I know they had areas in their own trees that they wanted to work on. Now we come to Bob Wittfeldt, who's with us. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Betsy.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we sure had fun. There was a lot of interesting stuff going on in your branches. So Bob has been a WikiTree since 2013, as a member of the Appalachia, United States, and Jewish Roots Project. He's also serves as a WikiTree project leader. He's a cemeterist, and when it's thon time, he's with the Appalachia Roots team. So let me come back over here. Okay, so you can see big growth.
Wow.
Yeah, don't you love to see this kind of, wow, lucky Bob. And here's your tree. We are going to be talking about your Norwegian roots. Actually, you have Scandinavian roots on both sides. Is it on your mother's side as well?
No, just my father's side. But
yeah,
the entire father's side is Scandinavian.
Okay, all right. And so this is why Dagmar's with us today. And she worked on Bob's paternal grandmother, Betsy, also known as Betsy, and she found her birth record and then the immigration record for Bob's great-grandmother, who came to the United States, Chicago specifically, with 4 of the children, including Betsy, in 1883. And she used census records to prove that Bob's great-grandfather was actually a different person than previously thought. It's a whole thing. So, and it's a big team effort, as Dagmar's going to tell you who did what. So, Dagmar, are you all set to take over?
This was truly a collaboration effort because it started with Eric Stamper. He posted that one of the rockers had Scandinavian roots, and all the Swedes just jumped at it because there were so many Sweden profiles to work on. So I said, oh, okay, I'll do the Norwegian branch because there were actually one. Betsy was Norwegian, so I would work on that. And it turns out she was actually the only Norwegian in the tree. Both her parents were born in Sweden, and both were born out of wedlock. So there were a lot of families there. But it turned out interesting, and anyway, even though there was only one direct ancestor that was born in Norway. But since her mother was born in Sweden, the Swedes concentrated on that. Axel and Kirsten worked on her. So I just worked on her father, who was supposed to be born in Norway. And started by chopping off his parents because nothing actually fit quite right. So there was an age difference with all other records, and nothing actually fit quite right. So I started by chopping off the tree. And then tried to put back the branches, but it turns out to be rather difficult to find him because we had the exact birthday and the Paris, but we still couldn't find him. So I started by asking help with a Norwegian group that's called Norwegian Genealogy, and just asked where was this Paris, because I wasn't quite sure it was the correct one because it changed names during through the times.
And that's on Facebook? You found that group? It was a Facebook
Yeah, it's Facebook group, yes.
Yeah.
And somebody there just jumps on in. Actually, there were 3 or 4 people working on that branch. They found his Herman Steff. He actually died in Norway. He and his wife got divorced, and he moved back to Norway. It doesn't happen that often.
Dagmar, can I make sure that I understand? So,
yeah.
Betsy and her mother and the 3 other children, they immigrated to Chicago in 1883. And
she traveled alone.
Yeah.
But her husband must have traveled before her. I can't find him. But she traveled alone with 4 children.
Right. And so they, for a period, they were all in Chicago. Then the parents divorced and he went back to Norway. Okay.
Yeah. So he must have moved back. Norwegian records, there is mostly one place you find Norwegian records. That's Digitalarkivet. And it's fantastic, really. There are so many records there. Not all of them are indexed, so you can actually look through the church books as well, or census records. So, but it's a fantastic page. So that's where I found Betsy, and she has this fantastic name. Betsy Ovidia Hermana Henriksen. It's a mouthful. So, but her father was the one that gave problems. So Herman, I couldn't find his birth. So, but they found him living with his sister in Oslo just before his death, and his sister was Emma, and his marriage records, it says where he was born and his father's name as Henrik Olsen. But Emma was living with her parents. It was Annelise, let's see, Oline and Anders Andersen. So it didn't fit. So, but almost at the same time, Axel found Herman born in Sweden. The illegitimate son of Annelise Åhman and Henrik Olsen. So that fit perfectly. And we could follow Annelise Åhman and her second husband, let's see, Olos Andreasen. They were living in, had one more child, and were living in Sweden. And then they disappeared. They just up and left one day. And after some wrongdoings, we couldn't actually find, they only said some misdeeds, wrongdoings. And they just disappeared in 1854. And then Axel found this news article where Olos Andreasen escaped prison. He just escaped prison. And let's see if I can read this. Let's see.
Do you want to see the transcription that you did?
Yes.
Yes, sure.
It's easier to read than this text.
Of course.
So, for multiple thefts, he was imprisoned, Olos Andreasen, as well as a smallholder, Niklas Olsen. They escaped prison for Harris. It's a council prison in Herestad. And some other prisoners escaped as well, but they got caught. By the jailers, and they actually said that the prison was in very bad condition. So that's all it says. It's just that the multiple thefts and they escaped prison, and that the prison wasn't in very good. So it's, but it was just okay. What happened there? So we went back to Emma, because if Emma was the sister, how did it fit together? So putting that and the census together, it turns out Olos and Annelise, they had changed their names. They were now living in Norway. Olos Andreasen changed his name to Andersen, and Annelise Åhman was now Oline Christesdatter. So they just changed the name, but they were still having this Herman, and the daughter they had in Sweden were still living with them. So it was the same family. But they just up and changed the name and moved to another country. So that was, gave a little color to the whole story.
That makes it so tricky.
Dagmar,
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough. That is just that's remarkable.
It was, we had a great fun doing this. It was chasing the roots back and forth. So I was able to find the siblings. They had 7 more children born in Oslo, and since the rest of the family was in Sweden, I just concentrate on those born in Norway, and they all but Emma emigrated. So they should be able to find them in the US somewhere, and mostly in Chicago. And there's a more twist to this story, because Axel actually also found that the father of Herman, Henrik Olsen, he found him in Sweden, and I think he added 5 generations or something to the father. And the father was a policeman. So the father was the policeman, and the husband was a thief. So, and then there I also found an obituary for one of the sons, Carl Johan, and in the obituary he said he emigrated in 1883, or he said he at the age of 18 or something like that. Some which can be calculated to 1883. And in his obituary, he says his parents are living in Chicago and with the name Andrew and Lena Andersen. So they changed the name again. So they are actually should be able to find them somewhere in Chicago under the 3rd set of names.
Dagmar, do I have the right Carl? There was
Yes.
more than one. Is that the right one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Carl Johan. Yeah.
Yeah.
There should be a link to his obituary on Family Search
Okay.
on the sources.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's they. So their parents emigrated as well. I found, I think, 1 or 2 sisters where you find some family, and I think Josephine. I could find her with her family, but not all of the others. She actually married a Dane. And I just added him and his parents. There's a lot more there that can be added to the day. The Herman's wife, she married again, and the second husband, he hasn't got a profile, so you can still lift the CC7 by adding the profile to that. So there's a lot more there to be worked on, but that's mostly in the States. So I thought that's something that can be worked on over time. So, but this was a fun family to work on. So it's not often that we find so great stories to work with. So this was fun. So, but the Swedes, they just run it. They added so much. They actually pushed. They were not an all-nighter, but they saw that they only needed 100 profiles or so to go over 2,000, and they added those 100 profiles in a couple of days or something like that. So. And they just kept going.
A big thank you to the whole Nordic project.
They were great.
Remarkable.
You will probably see some of them in the audience here today.
Yes,
so,
I saw Axel's here and Kirsten's here. Yep.
He did so much. Axel did so much.
Oh, Axel, yes, especially big thanks to Axel.
So
and Aaron and Missy
and Kirsten. So there were a lot more. Everybody did something, but there were Axel just drew the heavy loads in this one. It's really, but There's not that often. We have Sweden, Norway, and Denmark in the challenges. So
Yeah.
we did go a little overboard on this one.
I don't know if you can go overboard with CC7.
But it's also there was so much coordination and back and forth, and somebody threw in a link. Can somebody read this or find this? And yeah. So it was really collaboration.
That's
So
what I was just saying. WikiTree collaboration at its best.
it was really fun. So they
Well,
just kept going. I think I worked on this in 10 days or something like that. And then I left for Iceland and didn't get back to it. So the rest of the team just kept going. It was great. So.
Well, thank you, Dagmar. Thank you so much. There actually, so to show, let me go here. There was another discovery that Axel was very pivotal in. Axel, Kirsten and Axel both worked on this. So Bob and Kirsten are now sixth cousins once removed. So look at all that green. We love to see that green. And I know Kirsten's in the chat. And she wrote to me in an email, the parish, and I'm not going to say that. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. It's this parish in Okay, thank you. It's a small parish, and it had to be some connection. So she had Kirsten found one of her relatives as a witness to a baptism for a baby related to Bob. But Axel was the one who connected the dots. And Axel, I have to say thank you here's Axel. Rocker Axel. And so here we have Lena. And so you can see the WikiTree ID at the bottom. So Kirsten had created this profile as part of the RAWK challenge, as part of, here's a relative of Bob's. Meanwhile, she had also, a while back, had created this couple, Ingrid and Håkon, but there wasn't a link. And she had created them as her ancestors. So what Axel did is he found the daughter, Karen. So these are grandparents, of course, of Lena. So he connected the daughter so that we had all the generations lined up. And that's how the connection was proven. So pretty good stuff. And I want to emphasize that this, what we've shown in the last 50 minutes is just scratching the surface. I mean, if I were to show everything that had been done, we'd be here for a couple of hours. So really kudos to the whole team. And I am delighted to say, and sorry, there's their shared ancestor. I'm delighted to say that RAWK is back for 2024. We are currently soliciting nominations. So let me put that link for the G2G post in the chat. So please think about who you know who's a WikiTree or who's CC7 could use a little bit of a boost. And just reply to that post. And we would love to have you come RAWK with us. It's a lot of fun. We have a Discord channel midway through the month. We always have a 12-hour research party. And it's so gratifying to see the results come in. And as Chet said at the end of his video, we learn too, the RAWKers, it's not just a one-way street. we learn as we're giving to the people who are getting rocked. So, and so within the post for nominating, you can find a link to the other post to volunteer. So, well, I think that does it for us. Any last words from our guests? Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you, Betsy.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
And Alex, if you're listening, thank you a lot. Tusen tak.
Absolutely.
Biscuits.
And biscuits. That's right. I want to give a shout out to Sandy, who helped me pull together some of the final details, and also to Azure, who helped me with video editing for the conversation with Chet, and to all of you for joining in and showing some WikiTree love. So until February, we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Bye.